Good to see you. Sorry, we'll speak English. Yeah.
Yeah, we have to. Otherwise, we have too limited an audience. So
I can see the challenge there. Fine.
Rick, before we talk, introduce yourself, please.
Okay, my name is Rick Hess-Larsen, and I've worked for a Chinese printing company since 2009. Right now, I'm living in Denmark, and well, actually, we did move back to Denmark, but it's a family business. It's my wife's business. It has a fair size. We're about 160, 70 employees, and it was a success while we were there, and we've continued to try and help out from Denmark during the crisis here. So basically, I haven't been back to China for a year and a half because it's almost impossible to get in.
But you're still certain that the printing company is there, right?
Daily contact. So yeah, they're doing all right without me, which is good.
No, I think that is maybe more scaring, that sometimes people manage without the management, right? That is.
Sometimes they manage better without too much management, it's a different business climate. It's a different way of culturally they do things differently. It's much more top down, which is good if you're in a leadership position in the company. You feel like you have more influence and things happen a lot more quickly to your own, to your own line of thought, which is interesting. It's interesting
and very different from the West, right?
Sorry.
Very different from the West, because now we have to argue more.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and you have a lot more meetings too, I think, for the same reason, don't you? And I can, of course, that's important.
Yeah.
And you have to adapt to the culture you're.
Rick, what type of company is NPC that you are working with?
It's by far our I guess about 90% of our production goes to pharmaceutical companies.
Okay.
And you would know some of them. I'm not going to mention them because they don't like to be mentioned.
No, we don't care. For this conversation, we don't care, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
but yeah, and it's and we do mostly cartons and leaflets, and some what I call boxes, e-flute boxes for some other companies. But yeah.
And I heard from a joint friend, my colleague Henrik and your friend Henrik, that you actually want to start this session with a little advertising because you are in need of some machines, right?
It's not so bad. No, we're always looking for a five. We've been looking for a 5-color Heidelberg 102, and like I said, the point of me showing or introducing myself and talking to you is that we prefer to buy used machines because if you look at the return on investment, it's just been significantly higher than if we went in and bought new machines. Originally, the company started out with 2 4-color machines, and they did an admirable job for about 15 years, I guess. And when I joined, but the thing is, if you're patient, patience is important, I think. But if you're patient and you know what you want, and you do your due diligence, you will find the machine you want, and you can be lucky and find it at a reasonable price also. And we've been pretty successful with that, I would say. There's been some really good purchases and some that were okay, but not bad.
Okay, fantastic. And as you mentioned here, and that is a good lead-in because I asked you very late because I've been busy and because I had also a cancellation and I had to reshuffle the program, and I thought that it could be interesting talking to you because we have decided that this day is like our focus on offset technology because most of the webinars I have seen anyway has been more focusing on digital. And I think that offset still has like immense role to play both now and in the future. So I thought it could be interesting.
Yeah, but if you look at China, production size is so large. It's normal for us to do orders that have 100, 200,000 pieces, 1 million pieces. This is not. We're not surprised when we get these orders because this is This is how it's such a big country, and all production sizes seem pretty darn large.
And
it's by far the biggest car market in the world today, for example. You can go on and on about this. It's the biggest with everything, and it's only going to get bigger too. Offset digital is moving forward, but I would say offset, is particularly in that part of Asia, still has a huge role to play in printing. It shouldn't
I just saw that. I mean, Heidelberg announced the annual report last week, and basically they also still announced that the Chinese market seems to be the fastest growing market for them anyway. So of course, and as you said, it's a really huge market in all. And I think that you and I both think so. Maybe you can recognize, because I sometimes say to my friends, it's funny that when we get an order of 5,000 books, it's like huge in a Danish context, right? But we only 6 million people here, so that is, of course, like compared to almost 2 billion people, it's quite something. Rick, you already mentioned that when you look into second-hand machines instead of buying new machines, it's a matter of return on investment, of course.
It is.
Is that because you see the advances that we have in technology when it comes to faster setup time, faster print speed, self-regulating more on the quality aspect, is less important because there's a labor cost difference? Or why is it that you find that the ROI is better on these machines?
You're hitting the nail right on the head, Morten. Labor costs are maybe a fifth, even lower compared to certainly Denmark, which I think has some of the highest costs in Europe. But in general, we're talking about maybe 20% compared to what you'd see in the West in general, right? Mm-hmm. So what does that mean? We there's still requirements to efficiencies. We place great focus on efficiencies, and it's changing too. I think we've had wage increases in the neighborhood of 10 to 15% for 10 years now.
Yeah, because that's what I also heard, that the Chinese salaries are really increasing right now, right?
Dramatically. Yeah. So there've been a couple of slow years, but also in the industry as such. I think the last number I saw, the industry grew by about 5.5%. That was like 2018, 2019. But that I reached a slow point, maybe 2.7, something like that. I think it was in 16. But it's gaining speed, and I haven't seen the latest numbers, but with what's been happening with Corona, I'm quite sure that the market has grown significantly in China also. It'll play a bigger role. I know Heidelberg, they produce about 30% of their machines in their Shanghai factory, which says something.
Definitely.
In terms of quality, because they're quality focused, which and that's a big thing in the industry in China too. There's been a huge move towards efficiencies. Even wages increase, and they're still low, but you still want to try and maximize your efficiencies, and there's a greater focus on that too. So,
but I was thinking, because if you look at let me give you, it's a little bit of a stupid example, but I think it may be put it in perspective anyway. I was visiting a printing company in Latvia or Lithuania 10 years ago, something like that. And when I was visiting the company, there was a really old Heidelberg machine, really old. And I was watching it because I was fascinated, because it was printing a gorgeous art book. I think it's for the Van Gogh Museum in Amsterdam. So it was like really, on the top, right?
Yeah. Okay.
And then I saw that it was probably running about 5,000 sheets an hour or something like that.
Yeah.
And the funny thing also is a little side thing to this one. There was no color strip on it. So I said to the operator, or to the project manager I was working, said, so how do you manage colors? You don't have measures, thing like that. And she looked at me like I was an alien. I was, but she said to me, well, if they don't get acceptance from the customer, then they don't get salary, so they are always spot on. and when that is like many years ago now. But
Yeah.
I can't help think about, and the reason why I'm putting this anecdote to the table here is because when you look at the ROI of a, let's say, a one generation or two generation old machine, and when it comes to speed and setup time and things like that,
Oh, yeah.
and in growing salaries, I was just
Yeah.
wondering, have you made the calculations when it is also in a Chinese context maybe more interesting to look into the 18,000 sheets per hour machine?
No, but the machines we do run, they do run 15,000.
Okay, so that's not very old machines. It's like new
Well, they
new
are
old
old.
machines.
They are old. Some of them are old, I would say, but they've been good workhorses for us, right? And it also depends on the business, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes we're in a situation where we seem to get more orders on leaflets, and those machines, they do about 15,000 an hour, and again, you have reasonable wages. I mean, like reasonably low wages, and we run those machines about 22 hours a day actually. Then
okay, so you have a very high level of utilization,
and it's about 6 days a week too. Sometimes it depends on how busy we are.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
But we always try and keep Sunday open. So
so you have like that as excess time if you need extra work, right? No, I'm just kidding. Don't worry.
No, it's about more. It's about the workers, because we try and treat them like many of them have worked for us for a couple of decades. It's actually not a young team. I'd imagine if you went around to many, because our company started up in '93, so on our website, and there's a lot of people that have been with the company since then, and maybe that's not typical for most Chinese companies. And we were also one of the first movers, I guess, in this direction in that area of China. And something happened in the early '90s. I think it had to do with Deng Xiaoping and him opening up for the commercial aspect of it was suddenly kind of legitimate to earn money in China, and there was huge import. There was a huge investment in the printing industry at that time, and that's when it really started. There's a lot of other companies that have joined the competitive market in Liaoning since. I think there's in China. There's like 98. I read that there's like 98,000, 980,000. Is it 980 or is it 98? No, 98,000 printing companies in China. It's huge. The country is huge. The numbers are always huge, and the competition is brutal.
Yeah.
Frankly, it wasn't that bad if you go back 15 years ago.
Okay.
But it's become a lot more cutthroat certainly the last 10 years.
Okay.
And there, if you go in and look at efficiencies like you were talking about before, I looked into the numbers and they've gone up almost 300% in a 10-year time span from about 2009 to 2019. The average production per worker has increased that dramatically.
Fantastic, Rick. With your experience from your printing company in China and with the ROI that we just talked about right now, I'm not trying to put anybody on a bad position here, but I was wondering the automation and the speed and the discussions that we see in maybe mostly in Europe and maybe not as much in America and maybe certainly not very much in Asia. Is that more like people want to be technology leaders rather than really looking into business? I mean, do you think they could do business with secondhand machines if they were available?
Yeah, I believe it, but I'd also say the understanding of maintenance, the importance of maintenance, is also very important. If you're gonna focus on buying used machinery, you have to have a good maintenance plan, and you have to have good people. Education, training, they're all very important if you're going to go that route. And I think maybe that's why we've been able to do that so far, at least. Like I said, I don't think maybe you can't follow this strategy 10 years from now because it is a cutthroat, and it is, and we feel that too. And prices are going down all the time. It's just the nature of the business, though, isn't it? But
it depends a little because I mean you saw. I don't know if you saw that because I had an interview with Hess-Larsen from KLS Pureprint just before your session, right?
I saw some of it. Yeah.
Yeah, And I mean, as I said to him, and I still believe, is that the problem when you say that it's like a downward curve when it comes to pricing is probably that we have difficulties sometimes identifying our added value. So if we just sell on price, yeah, because it's under going from the throat, right? I was thinking that sometimes it's like, okay, what kind of added value can you add to your product and services in order to increase your margins, right?
Yeah, but it's undeniable. I've read quotes from 1936 where they talk about where company executives are complaining about the pressure on price, and it's just and sorry, it is the history of the industry. The machinery has become better. The people that are running them are better educated. There's a lot of reasons for this pressure on, and it's the nature of many businesses, but I think it's pretty clear in the printing industry. I'm sorry to say that, but it really is. And I think if you don't do that,
but that is maybe because one of the things that is also totally clear, in my opinion, is that the overcapacity in the market, because demand is, I wouldn't say that demand is falling, I would say demand is changing. And that is one thing. And the other thing is that, with all due respect also for your family, for your company, is basically that a lot of these companies are not run by business people, but by people that started a printing career because they started, yesterday we were at a quite fantastic printing company here in Germany, actually visiting them. And basically he said that I started because my school teacher needed some print and I wanted to make some money. So he bought himself a copier, right? And he got started from there. Yeah. And also if you look at Lasertryk in Denmark, they have always part of their story is that they did postcards and business cards for their girlfriends who were hairdressers, right? So I mean, a lot of us starts from per incident or accident, you can say, or you start because of a passion to the product, and maybe less because you have a business degree and that is maybe why some of the really big online printing companies have been able to grow so fast over such a short time because they are so focused on the business rather than on just the products and the equipment, right?
Well, I basically agree with you. Again, that said, though, as soon as you find a niche,
under pressure again, right?
Yeah, exactly. You have the niche for yourself. Maybe you have it for 2, 3, 5 years, but you're going to be under pressure because if you're making, I wouldn't say unsustainable. That's not the right word. But if you're making profit margins that are significantly over the industrial average, they're going to find you. Your competitors are going to find you, and they're going to take a slice of that eventually. Yeah. Sorry, that's
Michael Dell. He said it so nicely in the 90s. He said that if you have too much fat on your bones, then somebody will go and get you. And I think it's the same here, right?
Isn't Tesla seeing that in the car industry right now? With they make the best car, but there's a lot of other great cars coming up right now. And they had this market for themselves for about 10 years, which is pretty impressive when you consider the size and the perspective of that market. It's amazing. He could
So how long time do you think he will be relatively alone in the space race?
That's another. I have no idea.
No, I was just kidding. It's just
I'll tell you what. Yeah, that's totally beside what we really want to talk about. But the Chinese are going to dominate the space industry too. They just want to. They want to, and it's military. It's nothing else. It's military. They'll do that. But whatever they want, they get because they have the muscle to do it, and they have the resources.
When you look at let's get back a little bit on track here for the next 5 minutes. I was just we spoke about that the motivation and the reason obviously is that you put that investment in perspective to your earnings and to your profit, of course, right? Yeah. Can you imagine what price level of, for example, salaries you have to reach in China before it is really interesting to look into, like fully automate? I mean, one of the tendencies that we are talking about in the Western world these days is lights out production, basically where you can manage printing company with almost zero people. Is that something that is at all on your radar?
No, not at all. No, and you know what? There's politics kind of plays a role too. I think we could probably run our business with significantly fewer employees. I say that, but I'm believe me, I'm in a minority. The thing is, if all these Chinese companies started firing or reducing, becoming that much more efficient, I wonder what kind of political implications it might have. Maybe not on a federal level, but certainly at a local level. They if all companies started doing this, and to a certain extent, all companies can do this. I think when I see businesses run in China, there's a lot of employees, and they could reduce quickly. I don't. That's not the reason why we don't do it. We need the people we have, But it's also about, they do have longer work weeks than we find in Europe. They don't have the vacation time. They have vacation time, but they don't have as much vacation time as we have. They're not, in Western media, you hear a lot of negatives about child labor and slave labor. And to me, a lot of that is nonsense. It's a false propaganda. It's what you call fake news nowadays. I've never seen that. I've never heard it. And I've talked to many general managers in Northern China. Many.
I remember because I was in Shanghai visiting 10, 15 printing companies some years ago. Yeah. And, the question I was asking was, is there any child labor? Is there any, yeah. I mean, these, how do you take your pollutions directly to the sewers, or you have like standards? And it was, to be honest, without going into details, there was not like a lot of difference from the West. Where I saw the most difference in that perspective was in India. In India, there was really a huge difference at the few printing plants I've been at. But the thing is, of course, that the reason why we and one of the things that is quite interesting with this conversation is that, I mean, you said also that you have some export, of course, and think that when you look at the Chinese printing industry, they have thrived from having very low salaries, maybe also to a certain degree being maybe, I don't know, forced is the right name, but convinced to buy local papers and to have local chemicals and things like that, so they could keep costs low.
That's the misunderstanding. We're not forced,
No, but that was like forced, but more like you have an incentive, because if it's 20% cheaper, then you have an incentive. It's the same kind of level, right? Yeah,
but we bought a lot of paper from the States at one point, but you had politicians in the United States banging drums about trade wars. Well, if the U.S. was going to, my thinking at that time,
of course you need to get the local sources, right? Yeah,
they're going to put but if they're going to put tariffs on Chinese goods, there are not that many American products coming across the border into China. I think it's like for every $4 that goes to the U.S., $1 goes to China, right? Yeah, in terms of exports, and paper would be one of them. It could have been one of them. So we actually redirected our purchases of American paper over to a domestic brand.
The reason why I'm saying this is because, when you have that labor situation, you have that focus on fierce competition, things like that, and you have a huge export, and you see the raising salary prices of China. I'm not trying to provoke, but I'm a little bit curious, because I mean, a lot of the success has also been that it's exporting to the European countries and to Americas, right? Yeah. If that disappears or it gets limited because the automation makes the products competitive in the high salary countries, it must influence you at some point.
It doesn't influence us. First of all, the Chinese market is still growing, and it's huge.
But for the export,
But again, we don't. Our products are exported, but we don't export them directly. We have.
I thought you did. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, but we do produce for other markets. Korea, Japan, Australia. Our products end up everywhere. Yeah. I once had a list. I think it was like 58 countries, but we didn't actually export directly. But that's where our products end up. So yeah.
Rick, it's been a fantastic conversation with you. I really appreciate that you could join me with such a short notice.
It was more about China, though, wasn't it? Than about actual secondhand purchasing. So
yeah, it was, but it was interesting in my opinion anyway. I hope you enjoyed it. It was fun to talk to you, and I hope that I
it was
will
great talking
meet
to you,
you.
Martin.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
I
was
hope
really
to see you at some other time. We have common friends, so why not, right?
I think that'll happen. Okay.
That's okay.
Great.
Thank you very much, and have
Yep.
a wonderful day.
Yeah.
Bye bye.
Thanks for your time.
Bye.
Okay. Bye.